Good afternoon. Welcome to the Business Broadcast. I'm Nikki Larkin, and today I have my lovely guest of Neil Veglio, and we are talking podcasts. Welcome. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me on. I feel like I've got to act my age now for a change. I don't normally talk to special people.
No, when you get my age, you don't want to act your age anymore.
I'm probably about your age, to be fair. So
I'm 51.
Just shy of that.
Oh, there you go. Who wants me? Yeah. So
that's why we get
over
each other.
50, you don't care about anything anymore. You can just say it as it is, I think. Anyway, so everybody, welcome to Business Broadcast. I promise you, yeah. So what we do, if you've not seen this before, we basically interrogate our guest to find out as much knowledge as we can in the next 30 minutes on their specialist topic. It's not mastermind, but it is Business Broadcast. Basically, today, though, why I've invited Neil on is so many podcasts. Everybody has got, it almost seems as if everybody's got a podcast. I love podcasts. That's my highlight of my weekends list of podcasts. But what we want to do today is we want to talk about why would you have a podcast if you in related to your business, and also there's all sorts of things we're going to cover. We've got a jam-packed 30 minutes, so I don't want to take any more time. As always, please do ask live questions. We love to have them, so please do post your questions or say hi, whatever you want. You know, that's all good. So Neil, a podcast. So why? Why would businesses be thinking about podcasts?
My answer to that is always the same. Do you want to own your marketing? It's as simple as that, really, because, you know, let's face it, most people watching this think they're going to be on YouTube, they're going to be on LinkedIn, right? So two platforms there that you have no ownership of at all. So, you know, if you're putting out your marketing messaging and LinkedIn suddenly gets bought out, I mean, it's unlikely, to be fair. Microsoft owns them. They're not going to be, you know, flogging for a couple of quid and a couple of penny sweets, are they? But say, you know, Elon Musk comes along, goes, do you know what, Bill? It's time. I want to turn LinkedIn into Twitter for business. Let's do it. You know, it's not likely to happen that you're going to lose all your content or your control, but the chances are much more, you know, there's more risk that what you're putting out could just disappear tomorrow. You know, asset strip, that sort of. We've seen it before. We've seen the entire platforms just go under overnight. And what's left then is a case of, oh, right, well, I built my entire empire. I mean, Twitter X is a good example. A lot of people have ditched Twitter because of the politics. So now you've got a bunch of people with millions of followers on a platform they can no longer use because there's nobody on there anymore. So essentially your platform has been made redundant overnight.
Yeah.
YouTube,
same with Facebook aging out. Yeah,
absolutely. And these platforms, they're moving forward, they're changing, they're innovating, things are changing. You know, people now already are starting to moan about LinkedIn's algorithm and the fact that 360 Brew is now making it all about, oh, well, I can't post a selfie in the gym anymore and get loads of likes. Well, no, you can't, because it's never been about that. It's always been about, you know, business, interacting, education, you know, value, to quote that horrible Gary Vaynerchuk term. But the point is that, you know, you don't own those platforms. Whereas with a podcast, an RSS feed, nobody can ever take that away from you. You know, your RSS feed plugs into various different platforms, such as, I don't know whether you're with Captivate, who we use, or Libsyn, who are a legacy platform, Buzzsprout, whoever you're with. They don't own your content. They literally facilitate your content getting out into the various apps. So even if Apple Podcasts goes under, again, unlikely, but could, it doesn't matter. Your podcast still exists and you still own it, and you just plug it wherever you like. So
because we've already had our first comment from Daniel. Okay, he was saying it's already happened to him with Spotify. So I assume he must have been putting it straight onto Spotify rather than via another route somehow.
Well, it's not even about, I mean, Spotify is a destination as well as a host. So let me explain the difference really quickly there. You know, with Spotify, you are, again, you're in rented land because it's a free host. You don't pay anything for it. And the idea is you give us the content, we'll stick it out in the world for you. But with that comes the risk that then you are the product. unlike hosting companies where you're the client, Spotify treats you as the product. So it's basically, how many podcast feeds have we got now, to the shareholders? Oh, we've got 4.5 million. Brilliant. Bonuses in the mail, and so you become a commodity. That means no support. That means if your podcast episodes aren't reaching certain platforms, well, it's free. What do you expect? So there is that element of it as well, with Spotify. You are running, I always say to people, if you're running a professional branded podcast on Spotify, you're kind of asking for trouble, especially as it's like, what, $20, $30, $40 max per month to, do it right, do it properly.
Indeed. And actually on LinkedIn, I've spotted a lot of marketing people talk about using their podcasts or setting up podcasts, but like for a very, very small audience for marketing. What's all that about? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? What's it all about?
They're talking about setting it up for a small audience for marketing. Say more about that, Nikki.
Yeah, I've seen some brand marketing. I think they're like almost doing it as like do a podcast, but then you send it to them, and I'm like, well, isn't that just like bringing a video? Right. And it's just like, what are you on about?
So what you're talking about is people using it as an outreach tool. So in other words,
yes.
Well, I mean, see, I don't have a problem with that, and I think it is useful for that. In fact, I actually have recommended that as a tip in. Can I plug my latest episode of my podcast?
Go for it. Absolutely. Plug.
So literally the latest episode went out last night, and I was literally talking about how, when it comes to growing audience, that's one thing, but having that audience get something from your podcast is quite another. And, you're kind of relying on people sharing, you're kind of relying on people sort of talking about it, the word of mouth thing, versus if you've got an actual topic. So say, for example, you have somebody that comes into your email inbox and they're interested in working with you. Say they're like, oh, do you know what, Nikki? My accounts are a mess. I need somebody to come and take hold of this, babysit me and get me to where I need to be so that HMRC don't take me to court. What you can then do, if you've got a podcast episode that talks about the basics of setting up a proper accounting system, proper, all the spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff, you can save a lot of the time that you're going to be spending in the initial conversations with them by just saying, look, we cover all these basics in this podcast episode. Go away, have a listen to it, watch it if it's on YouTube. And then once, if there's anything else you don't understand, let's have a chat about it. You've done a lot more of the groundwork and saved a lot of time in terms of the initial conversation, so that when it comes to the point of having the conversation, you can get to a decision much more quickly versus, well, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. It really gets to the nub of the problem that way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Absolutely. So if you've got a podcast now, so as we know, thousands of people out there, they've played around, they've tinkered, they might have been, twiddling their thumbs during lockdown and
testing, 1, 2, 3, this is my podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm here, find me. So they might have had one, it's absolutely doing nothing, they're getting barely double digits or whatever. What would you suggest to them? Should they be just give up? Should they rebrand? Should they relaunch? What should they be doing?
You have to think about your podcast almost like your website. Like, if you've got a website that's not doing exactly what you want, but you've stuck blog posts out there, you've got your service pages, you've got all the information, you've been answering with FAQs and things like that. You wouldn't just scrap your website just because it's not getting, 100 to 1,000 viewers more per month, would you? You would adapt it. You would hire someone that knows what they're doing to come in, audit it, fix it, add to it, whatever you need to do. Because the thing is, what people don't realize is that you've already got the keywords and you're getting keyword density for some of the topics you're talking about. So and I always say this, if you've got a podcast where it's just not doing anything, like you say, double digits, to be honest, in some niches, that's probably not bad organically. Some niches are only going to have maybe a maximum of 150, 200 possible listeners without really motoring with the marketing anyway.
Wow.
And if you and I always say as well, think about 20 people in a room. Like, if you were going to get on a stage with 20 people in a room to watch you talk, you'd still be a bit nervous. You'd be like, okay, there's people going to watch me here. This is weird. Okay, and you're going to get that sort of performance anxiety. So never poo-poo the idea of 20 people listening to your podcast. Obviously, we want more because obviously conversion rates. But what I would say to you is if you've got a podcast that's not performing to the level that you want it to, don't scrap it and start again, because you've got a feed that is already doing some work for you. So Apple Podcasts, they index keywords. Spotify, they index keywords. YouTube is the same, obviously. It's the same thing. That people think YouTube is suddenly this massively brilliant new discovery engine for podcast content. It's not. It's the same as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It just works with Google's ecosystem, so therefore it's a bit more advanced. But absolutely, if your podcast isn't working, don't scrap it. You do what I do when I have issues with something in my marketing that I don't fully understand how to fix it. I hire an expert and I talk to them about, okay, so I've got this content. It's not exactly achieving the results I want it to. What can I do to fix that? And then the expert will be able to say to you, because you wood from the trees, you're too close, etc., etc. Here's what you're probably missing out on here. Maybe tweak this, maybe tweak that. You might find slightly better results. So I would say to anybody with a podcast, don't ever ditch it. Just find out what you can do to improve the results from it.
Great. Yeah, no, that sounds really good. And I completely understand that. That makes sense. The analogy with the website makes sense. So there also will be lots of shy, timid people out there, because obviously loads of business owners are so shy and timid, are that they're thinking, oh no, I don't know about having a podcast. Isn't it really difficult? Is it, where should I start? What do I do? What are the barriers that you come across to newbies, to them stop? Why are they thinking, why haven't they already done it? What are the barriers and how do you overcome them? And, what's your advice to them?
Who'd ever want to hear me speak? What do I know about anything? If I say stuff in public, people are going to criticize me and I'm going to open myself up to people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. People hating their own voices and not realizing that actually they've got great voices. It's just your little weird bone system in your ears that makes you sound different out externally than in your own head. People wondering about how they'll keep coming up with content because they'll run out of ideas, because people think that their industry is 3 things that they can talk about weirdly and don't think about all the subtopics within those 3 ideas. Most industries aren't 3 ideas, to be fair. It's the whole, it's the whole spectrum of excuses. I call it excuses because that's essentially what it is. What it is let's talk about ego. Okay, we've all got egos, whether we say we haven't or we have, and ego is seen as a negative. It's not. The ego is actually something that keeps you safe. It's your logical part of your brain that's basically trying to keep you out of trouble, right? And we're all fighting with this thing every single day. It's only those that have really done like deep level insights and work on themselves where they just go, do you know what? I'm aware of this and I'm going to act from my subconscious from now on. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And that's a rare thing. That's why you get outliers out there that they've gone beyond the worry of their ego and they're just doing what they know is best for them. And it's a hard skill to achieve. So you have to be kind to yourself that if you're a bit nervous about starting a podcast, it's not your fault. It's just your ego is like, well, I can't be on camera. All right. I've got a client now. I won't name her, bless her. I won't embarrass her. She's probably watching this. She hates being on camera. I have to physically say to her, look, you look great. Just let's do this because it's good for you. And so she will reluctantly, for certain episodes, I'm working on getting her to do it for every episode. But when she has a guest, she'll, doll herself up and she'll do it. But she hates it. She's not comfortable with it. And I think we all have that to a certain extent. I'm not a great live person, to be honest with you. And that's weird from somebody that spent nearly 30 years on the radio. You couldn't see me. You know what I mean? It's like if I put on a weird face, you couldn't see it. So I was able to be comfortable and, but now I've had to sort of enter it into a new skill set of being on video, doing things like this with you, doing the YouTube thing. It's not my comfort zone, but I push myself there anyway, because I understand it's important for my business and it's important for what I'm trying to achieve. So I would say to anybody that has any of those excuses, those can be worked on. They can be overcome. You will never run out of content. Nobody's going to think you're silly. In fact, if anything, people will be jealous of you because more people than you realize have this struggle of, oh, I can't be heard. I can't be seen. I should just keep in my own little box and just do my text posts on LinkedIn and post my selfies now and again where I force a smile. That is what most people are doing. And so if you step beyond that, you're already in the top 1% of all creators, all creatives, all business owners that want to, really level up their businesses.
Fabulous. So podcasts, people often normally think about still sound, so what is your opinion about sound only podcasts versus the videoed ones too?
Oh, you're going to trigger a lot of people with this question, and I'm going to trigger a lot of people with the answer as well.
Stir the pot.
You've obviously seen some of my posts. So look, up until very recently, I was one of those OGs. I've been around podcasting for a long time now. I remember when Apple Podcasts, it wasn't even called that then, it was iTunes, when they first experimented with allowing video, and Libsyn, which was the company my first ever syndicated company, actually, because I used to write my own RSS feeds. That's how nerdy I was with this, like between 2001. And actually, the guy the industry sort of journalist, James Cridland, he wrote a blog post once about how to do this. And I just literally copied it and was like, oh, great. Now I've got my content is going out into like the two places that existed at the time, which was iTunes and like your own website, basically. But yeah, that's where we've come from. Is it was an audio thing. It was an MP3 that got attached to an RSS feed, and then it went into the audio apps. Then the iPod, the one with video enabling that came out, and so people started to do video for the purposes of it being in iTunes, that people could watch it on these little iPods with the screens. And it didn't take off. Nobody was really interested in watching video on a letterbox postage stamp size screen. So it's kind of always been traditionally audio. And then Serial came along, and, then native Apple Podcast. And it's always been audio, audio, audio. Then all of a sudden YouTube comes along and goes, oh, well, we're going to, now say that video content is podcasts if it's not high production. And so where we are is we have to ignore all that, because that's industry internal kind of the people making it perspective stuff. What the end user, which is always, I maintain, the most important aspect of this, the person that's downloading the content, listening to the content, watching the content, they don't see it that way. They see it as, oh, this is a conversation between two people, or it's a documentary, or it's, a narrative piece, but it's calling itself a podcast. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, it's a podcast. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to understand that there are opportunities for both. I'm not saying anyone that doesn't have, audio only is invalid. I don't say anyone that has video only is invalid. Everybody's valid. Every single method of doing it is valid. It's just about what you personally prefer to do. And everyone's got a different modality. Some people would, even if you got the biggest video podcast, as we would call it now, in the world, but there's an audio version of your show, if you hate video, you're not watching it. You're going to go and listen to the audio version, and vice versa. Some people don't want to sit and listen on Apple Podcasts. They want to stick YouTube up in the corner of their screen while they're working, and to them, that's listening to a podcast. It's not, they're not even, technically they are, because they're not watching it directly, but it's playing. And just because it's on YouTube and it's visual, to them doesn't make a difference. It's still listening to a podcast. So I think a podcast is anything that you want it to be now. I wouldn't say a Zoom call uploaded to LinkedIn is necessarily a podcast. I think you'd be really stretching the truth there and I've seen it. I've seen people saying, oh, check out my podcast. And it's literally someone's recorded a Zoom call with their business mates and they've stuck it on LinkedIn, and it disappears 3 days later because obviously the algorithm ditches it. Unless you go to their profile. But some people are calling that a podcast. I think the key to this is, if you can find the show in Apple Podcasts, it's a podcast. If you can only find it in YouTube, it's probably not technically a podcast, but if you want it to be a podcast, I'm not here to fight with you. I've got bigger problems.
Absolutely. So let's just think about some of the practicalities for starting your podcast or improving your podcast that you've already got. Equipment. This going to go a bit techie now. Some people out there will love this bit. Others go, oh, techie.
Yeah.
But anyway, techie. Equipment. If, people, if they're on a limited budget, which bits of equipment are the bits that you go, if you want to put the investment in, which bits are the things that you think absolutely that's what they should put their money in?
Right. Grab a pen and paper right now, because this is going to save you a lot of time and money. Samson, Samson, Q, letter Q, number 2, letter U. Samson Q2U. It's a plug-in USB dynamic microphone, which is perfect for any space that isn't acoustically treated. It rejects a lot of outside sound. It's a great mic. You plug that in, pick your recording tool. It'll find it on the drop-down menu in your USB items. You've got yourself a podcast recording system. In terms of tools, you can use what we're using right now. We're using StreamYard right now. Kind of on the expensive side for most people, especially as they've just been bought out and they're charging creators a lot more money than they were. Yeah,
they are accurate prices, but what you do is you argue back. I've managed to get it reduced for another year.
Great. If you've got the sass to do that, brilliant. But bending spoons with most people are going to go, no, it's 350 quid a month now, pay up, So, that is one option. It's the one everyone goes for because it's the simplest. But I mean, I use Boomcaster, which my colleague at Captivate, Danny, bless him, he put me onto them about a year ago. They're brilliant. They do live and they do recorded, and they do everything that they're supposed to and nothing more. And that, honestly, for me, is what this is about. You've got tools like Riverside, which I'm highly critical of, and I think they hate me in their marketing team, bless them, but it's just AI bloat. That's all it is. It's,
I've heard, in fact, she was on an AI course that I heard lots of people talking about it. So, tell me about why don't you like it?
Because it doesn't do the thing it's supposed to do. Like, it's the you had one job thing, and that is recording video and audio locally on your machine that then gets uploaded to the cloud. It fails to do that at least 50% of the time, and they deny that. I mean, I've had so many people say, no, try this again, try that. And every time I've tried them again, it's failed. Now, some people, there are a lot of advocates for Riverside who will say, you must have been using it wrong. But no, it's not. It's luck of the draw. But the problem is, I think it also depends on what level you have Riverside. If you've got Riverside on basic,
it's not about how you use it wrong. It needs to be simple enough for everybody to be able to use it.
And unfortunately, there's that thing where there's the magic edit, and a lot of people click the button. And in fact, actually, Nikki, I do auditing for people. People can, direct me to their podcast, and I do an audit of them and check out all their audio. And the funny thing is, of all the people that I mark really low down on quality of audio and the structure, they always reveal, oh, yeah, I used Riverside to edit it. Well, there you go. That's why you're terrible. Let's be honest about it. People don't realize that, Riverside literally rips your audio apart and your video, and you're relying on AI. And of course, most people that are using it, they'll watch it and they'll listen to it and they'll go, well, that seems all right to me, I suppose, because they don't know any better. Or, they don't understand what good editing sounds like because they're very new to it. So when the tool does this, they trust, the tool must know what it's doing. Maybe it's me that doesn't really get it. So, it's one that I would avoid. I would normally recommend either Boomcaster, which is one that I use, or you've got Zencaster, which is an okay one. And a Squadcast. Unfortunately, Squadcast is not being supported anymore. It's still great, but that's moving over to Descript have bought that now. So that is now called Rooms within the Descript program. But that will probably still be better for you than Riverside, even though it's not supported.
Goodness. So let's just talk about specifically what you do. So, because we've only got 5 minutes left. So let's just go through, where can people find you, Neil? What are your different types of offerings? Because you've mentioned audit of the podcast, all that sort of thing. If you just summarize that for us so that we, as we exit Outfit and go off and, I was going to say enjoy the sunny afternoon. It's got a bit cloudy. Whoops. Anyway,
sure.
in my head it's sunny.
Absolutely. Positive mental attitude at all times.
Absolutely.
Podnose.co.uk. So that's podknows.co.uk. And that's easy to remember by, wow, God knows what he doesn't know about podcasting, but with a P, not a G. So maybe a little bit blasphemous at this time of the year, but we'll overlook that for now. That's next week.
Podnose casting, all one word together.
So it's podnose.co.uk is the website. The brand, the company is Podnose Podcasting. That's it. Absolutely. PODKNOWS. And in terms of what we do, I mean, we offer various different services at whatever level you're at. So if you're just DIYing it, then we offer support that way in terms of we'll do coaching, we'll do consultancy. Like I mentioned, we do audits for, solopreneurs up to corporate level. We do diagnostics. So if you're part of a brand that has a podcast, you're the CMO, you're like, oh my God, I've got to answer to the CEO next week, and our podcast still only has 30 listeners. What do I do? And I don't even know if it's any good for the business. Well, that's where the diagnostic comes in. I can look at it and I can say, okay, so this is what you're trying to achieve with the podcast. This is what it's actually achieving. And here's how you might want to connect the dots a little bit more and make it work, for you more efficiently. And there's also production packages. So we do the content, audio and video, as we mentioned. Be a bit hypocritical for me to go on a rant about podcasting is whatever you want it, but still only offer audio. We do video as well. All the clips that you see all the time on LinkedIn when you scroll it, we do all that. It's kind of just like we don't make a big deal of it. It's just, it's there. We don't expect results from that. Where we get the results for you is we literally find your ideal audience and we get the stuff in their ears for you. So they will become fans of your show. You're guaranteed to have an audience. So if you're, thinking about starting, but you're like, oh, I think the idea of not getting the dopamine and getting 5 listeners, I can't deal with that. You won't have to, because you're going to be guaranteed, at least 100 downloads within your first episode, because that's what we do for people who find them in their ideal audiences, and we get them listening.
Fantastic. So podnose.co.uk, Neil's all over LinkedIn. Do read what he says on LinkedIn, because it's very entertaining. Says it how it is, which is what I like. So no, thank you so much today, Neil. It was brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. For anyone coming up, we will have another business broadcast at the end of April. We've got a couple different potential speakers, so I'll let you guys know about that shortly on LinkedIn. But for anyone that is around about in the Oxfordshire, Berkshire area, we do have a live seminar with Rob Pickering on the 10th of April at the lovely Goring and Streatley Golf Club, which will be fabulous, brilliant food. So it's worth it just for the food. But honestly, Rob is brilliant. You know him, don't you, Neil? So
I do.
Yeah. So effective marketing, 10th of April in person. The spot's going to go quick, so get in quickly before everybody goes, oh my God, no, I don't want to be at home for the rest of the Easter holidays. I need to go off to see Rob. So do that, book in soon. But thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend and have a great Easter, everybody, next week too. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Good to see you.